Hey, 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 it's your girl MJ, and welcome to the Booty Call to Bride channel. I am your girl, Michelle Tillman, and this week, guys, I'm switching it up a little bit. So, after you watch this video, you have to let me know, what do you think? Do you think that I should do the live version of my review, or if you like the edited, short, concise version of my review? Today, you're getting the live version because I've had an extremely busy week at work, and so I just want to make sure I get it out there instead of waiting and then having to edit all day in between caring for my beautiful daughter. So let's get right into it. So this week, and if you see me looking down, I've got tons of notes. Y'all, I take notes like for real on the show. So this week, the couples have been married for 3 weeks, and this episode is all about developing intimacy and trust. So all the situations, all the little questions, and the things that they have to talk about, like where they pull the questions out the bowl, are about intimacy and trust. So I'm gonna start with Woody and Amani, and I really like about them. The question was, what is the one thing that will turn me on and make me want to be more intimate with you? And Woody said being a good listener. And so I think Amani is actually an excellent listener. And I think that is why he is so attracted to her physically and emotionally. And you can tell that that is his love language because of how he reacts to her in those situations. For Amani, she said when he does the little things. And one of the examples that she gave is, you make me breakfast tacos and you put cheese and salsa on it, and you don't even like cheese and salsa on your tacos, but you put them on my tacos. So I was just like, yes. And she was like, that's stupid. He was like, no, but that's real. And I just wanted to commend her for picking out that little thing. It's not about the cheese and tacos. It's about doing something for someone, even if it's not what you prefer, even if it's not your love language. If you know that will make your partner happy, then you are willing to do that. And I think that that is a great characteristic of a wife, of a husband, if anyone who wants to be in a relationship. The question they also got, and of course I know the experts must have like picked questions based on where they knew the couples were physically. So the question was, what is your favorite sexual position? And Woody says, from the side, so you can physically hold and see each other's entire body. So that just, to me, that his answer even was just like an expression of how he just totally loves everything, about her physically, emotionally, everything. And Amani said it was one that they have not done yet. And she said she likes when her legs are in the air on someone's shoulder, and it was just that angle that they hit. So I thought it was kind of not weird. I mean, it was honest that that's her favorite position, but I think one thing that you learn being married is that what might have been your favorite thing with someone in your past is not necessarily going to carry over to who you're with currently, because you're with someone new, you're doing new things, they're doing new things, there's things that they might prefer that you might not prefer, and you guys, it's just kind of like an ebb and flow, and you got to be able to not be offended or not be stuck in what you prefer. But it was honest that she said that, so kudos to her for being honest. The next question they got was like, when have you given up on something? And Woody mentioned how he gave up on his relationship with his father. That was one of those moments that was so like, wow, that was deep. That was like definitely something that it took guts to be able to say. And I just love how they went back to the part on the day of the wedding when Amani's dad and stepdad were talking to Woody, and he was like, now I got 2 bonus pops. I can call 2 people and I can be like, what you think about this? What you think about that? Like, that moment was so heavy and so emotional. And I just think that Woody's vulnerability talking about his dad is just so amazing. And they just kind of ended the scene there. because I guess whatever Amani might have said might not have been a great scene ender. I don't know. You know, I just think about the editing and the production of it, because I did used to work on the show. So I just always think about like behind the scenes, what really happened. So that scene ended great with Amani and Woody in a vulnerable moment. They were also talking about how they want a dog. Amani was saying she wants a dog, and Woody was like, well, we don't need a dog. We can have a baby first. But I'm like, Woody, you might want to practice with the dog first, because having a whole entire baby is a huge deal. I myself am a new mother to a 10-month-old beautiful baby girl. Shout out to National Daughters Day. To my baby girl Gracie. But having a daughter, or a baby period, before a dog, like, I was like, okay, Woody, like, you want a baby, we understand, but taking care of a dog first might help you with some training. I mean, I didn't have any pets. I understand you will learn regardless when you're taking care of a baby, but he's just saying he didn't think they had time to dedicate to a dog. But you don't think you have time to dedicate to a dog, but a whole entire baby is a dog times 10. Like, seriously. I also loved the fact that whenever they had like one of the questions where they danced for their partner, they like played some reggae music and Woody was getting it in. Now, I am a fan of reggae. I'm talking about when I used to party before I was delivered from the club. When I used to party and reggae came on, it was a whole entire problem. Don't let me get some dirty wine, all that. Like, that was a problem for me. So I was just really feeling the reggae vibe that they had whenever Woody and Amani were dancing together. They did a lot of kissing, and they had little things that they were fun games that they were doing to build intimacy. And I just think that the experts picked something great for them to do. Next is Christina and Henry. Okay, so I got 2 whole pages of notes about them. So Henry talked about how he folds like a table on many occasions, and he said he's not emotionally expressive. And Dr. Viviana, who she's so beautiful, I love her, and he said he hasn't found much use in expressing how he feels, that's real. So that means whoever received the expression of his feelings didn't make him feel like it was worth even saying. So that's like, to me, some deep emotional baggage and emotional issues that he's really got to work through. He also mentioned that he hadn't dated seriously in 10 years. And of course, that's not hard to believe. I mean, not trying to be funny, but we all can believe that Henry hasn't dated in 10 years. And he said he hasn't had practice in being physical and being communicative. And when Christina was talking to Dr. Viviana, she was like, yeah, I want us to be friends first. And she kind of cautioned her with that, like, hey, don't get so stuck into being friends first that you're like in the friend zone to the point where you can't get out of that friend zone in your marriage, and then you're both miserable and you're not being able to be intimate and romantic because you're so friend-like. So she did caution her about that, and I totally agree. For me, even like dating my husband before we were married, because we didn't have any type of intimacy before marriage, we saved ourselves for marriage. It was hard to make sure that you still keep the romantic chemistry without crossing those boundaries that we decided we want to set in place. So I can only imagine when you desire that, you're not getting it, all you can do is kind of hope that more develops. Because even when their Dr. Viviana had them, like, she was like, touch her, and Henry touched her thigh, she was looking like, oh, like, I don't know if she was happy or she was shocked or she didn't know what to do with it. Henry looked uncomfortable. He just kept saying like things will come more natural in time. But one thing that she did correct Christina on, which I totally agree, is that you can't just say, oh, well, you can't just say the ball's gonna be in his court. And then you can't just say the ball's going to be in his court and then like say, well, he's got to make a move. He's got to make a move. you're in this together. So I understand she might not feel comfortable with um, doing things first or being the aggressor, but in order for it to work, I really do think that she's gonna have to change her mindset and not just assume that Henry has to be the aggressor, because clearly he's not aggressive, and that's kind of who you're matched with. So she even said when she was talking to her mom about everything and about how this is the kind of guy you asked for, but what's missing? And then she said, confidence. Whew. So this goes back to when they were doing the questions and he had the blindfold on, and Christina was like, well, if you go blind one day, you gotta practice. Okay, that was weird. But the question was, what can you do to get things better in the marriage and open more? And he said that when he was younger, he was heavier, and that a lot of his friends kind of feel like he still acts like he's heavy. And I totally understand what that can be like. I've been up and down my weight all around, been really fit, and then right now I'm probably the biggest I've been. But I understand how even when you lose the weight, if your mindset hasn't changed, it's hard to switch the thought process, because especially if you lose weight fast, it takes time for your mind to catch up with what you did. But I thought Christine was really insensitive when she was like, well, I just want you to get over it. Even though she later said, well, I want to help you get over it, I just thought it was really insensitive for her to say, just get over it. Then whenever the question was to her, how do you know when you're in love? And she was like, you just feel it. Okay. Love is more than a feeling. Love is a choice. The question also was, what is a deal breaker? And I just thought this was really interesting that they asked this question after last week's episode. Henry told Amani that her impatience was a deal breaker. So now they're asking her what's a deal breaker. I guess they're trying to give her a chance to give her a little 2 cents, like, well, you got your deal breakers, I got my deal breakers, here we go. And she says lack of confidence. And then Henry was just like, oh, that was rude. And they played all the sad music and he was looking disappointed. But to be honest, y'all, okay, I kind of feel sorry for Henry sometimes, because I'm like, okay, I think he's on the spectrum and maybe has trouble processing and expressing how he feels. But on the other side, I'm like, you just said what her deal breakers were last week. Now they're playing the sad music for us to feel bad that she said that her deal breaker is not being confident. And so I just didn't like how they played that, how they edited that episode to make they wanted us to feel sad for Henry. But I just felt like he said with his word last week, so why can't she say what hers are? Christina, I understand her pain, and a lot of you guys have put in the comments like, oh, well, Christina, they messed her up. They gave her the short end of the stick with Henry, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, maybe so. But then once you're in it, you kind of have to say, okay, this is what I have. Am I going to work with it or am I not? And Henry just said him and Christina are on different wavelengths, and her saying that, low confidence was a deal breaker was a gut punch to him. Bennett said that society makes it seem like confidence is a mentality that means you don't experience self-doubt and that you don't have time or reason to question yourself. He said reflecting is a form of self-confidence and can be crippling, but doesn't mean it's not confidence. I said, well, preach, Pastor Bennett, okay? Society will make you think what confidence is supposed to look like. And what he was trying to tell Henry is confidence doesn't always look the way you're expecting it to look, or that you never have fear, or that you're never scared. That's not what confidence means. Confidence means something totally different. But in Henry's defense, he's saying, but that's not what Christina thinks confidence looks like. So that is kind of why he's like, well, she wants me to look confident in the way that she perceives confidence. And, well, that's what it is. So I just thought that, Christina wanted to make sure that her deal breakers were known now. And with that said, I just think that when she was asking him questions like if he wants to get confident and what's the deeper issue, I thought that was honest. It came off a little mean girlish, but I do think she was just being honest. Like, well, do you want to work on it? Like, do you want to get better? That's like dating a chubby person and you don't like chubby people and you say, well, do you want to eat better? Do you want to lose weight? Because if that's a deal breaker, someone who's not healthy to you, but they're, willing to change, that's one thing. So she's just trying to see like where he's at. And he was basically saying, that's not how I'm built. That's not how I'm wired. I thought he was going to confess about, well, I'm wired this way because of my disability, or not disability, excuse me, because of his diagnosis, of Asperger's or something that's what I thought he was going to say. Well, I'm wired this way because of XYZ, but he didn't. He kind of made it cut and short. Like, that's how I am, in the story. And that's just not how marriage works. You don't get to just say that's how I am. You have to compromise if you want it to work. So with Henry and Christina, I don't think they're going to make it. Okay. Amelia and Bennett. This one's pretty short. I love that her aunt was like, let me see that hunky husband. And then when she sees him, she's like, oh yeah, he looks exactly how I thought he would look for her. So I was like, okay, I don't know if that was shade or just like, yeah, he looks like your type. I just think it's so weird that he's always saying like, well, until I find out exactly where her residency is, I can't make a decision. We'll just cross that bridge when we get there. He's been saying that for like the whole 3 weeks that they've been married. And when he had the conversation with Henry at the bar, he was like, well, I'll find out next week if where she's going. So we will see next week. I don't know if it's gonna be next week on the episode or what, but I want to know where she's going and if the distance matters, like how far away it matters, if it's the specific city, because he's developed so much things in New Orleans that I guess he just doesn't want to up and leave. I love that Dr. Viviana told them that even good matches like hold back from each other. So she had them do the exercise where they did their affirmations and they like put their heads up to each other and they were like, I'm most excited to spend my life with you. Head to head. I'm most excited to spend my life with you. It was just so like cute. I was like, their affirmations, I just love it. I just think that they need to go ahead and find out where Amelia's going to be, because I need to know. Are y'all going to stick it out? Is he coming? Is he playing hard to get? Does he just want to string us along on the episode? And the producers might have told him, well, don't say your answer yet. Just say this. Because it's like he goes to that same go-to line. We'll cross that road when we get to it. We cross that road. So I'm like, did they feed him that line? Did they tell him, say this? Because we don't want you to just be all in and say, yes, I'm going. We need a little mystery to your relationship. I don't know. Maybe they did. What do y'all think? Do you think the producers fed him that line? Or you think that's like really what he came up on his own? I don't know. So Olivia and Brett, I was laughing because Dr. Viviana is kind of like me around animals. When those cats came jumping up and all over the place when she was trying to do their little session, she was like, oh, okay, like cats everywhere. I don't like cats. Sorry. So she was like, oh, y'all are the cat people. So yeah, I guess no one told her, yeah, you about to see 3 cats when you go in here and do this little counseling session. They talked about what their 2 biggest issues were, the living situation and the kids. And Brett, of course, he was being super sarcastic, talking about the house whenever she was like, yeah, well, he owns his house. And he was like, yeah, stupid equity. And then he's like, oh, being an owner, so irresponsible. Brett, I'm like, Brett, I cannot with you. Like, he is sarcastic, but in that instance, like, she tried to really make it seem like him owning a home was a bad thing. I just don't understand why she doesn't look at it that way. But Dr. Viviana kind of just encouraged them. These decisions don't have to be made today. But Brett said he absolutely wants to have kids. Olivia says it's a possibility. Brett takes that as a hard no, is what Olivia said. I kind of agree with him. Nobody wants to be with someone who says, okay, it might be a possibility, because at the end of the day, that could mean no. And for someone to say, I have to not have kids, something I've wanted my whole life, I just wonder what Olivia told the experts when she was, being interviewed. I mean, they fell out like 500 page applications and questionnaires and meet with psychologists and everything before they even get on the show. So I just feel like she must have made it seem like she was more flexible. And I wonder too if she is just saying that because she doesn't see a future with Brett, so she doesn't even want to talk about that stuff with him, because she seems very mundane, very just dull. But I just feel like because she don't like Brett, and she's saying like he acts one way on camera versus how he really is. And he started giving her the compliment about her smile to Dr. Viviana, and she was even like, was that even genuine? And when they talk about sex and everything, no one could really tell if Brett was serious, and I couldn't either. And it was just weird because she was like, is he serious? And she was like, I don't know. And she's like, oh, Brett, are you serious? He's like, yeah. It's just so confusing with Brett. You don't know when he's like, he played too much. Like, he does play too much. I don't necessarily care or favor for Olivia, but he played too much. And Olivia basically says sex should be meaningful, and she's not there yet, so whatever. But it also is one thing that Dr. Viviana said to Olivia, that nobody wants to know that you're just open to sex. They want you to want sex. When you have a good guy, he doesn't want to feel like he's taking the sex from you. He wants to feel like you're giving it and you want it too. So that was a good point that she made. Like, Olivia was like, well, I told him I'm open to it, and if he wants to do it, he should not make a move just because I don't make a move. I'm just like, what, girl, what? That don't make no sense. Nobody wants to feel like they're snatching it from you. Like, they want it to be given freely, a good man at least. So I also there was some notes about the part where when Olivia asked Brett, like, what did you think about the visit with Dr. Viviana? They were out to eat, and she was asking him, what did you think about the visit? And she said something about, he said it's hard to say that you'll get over something that doesn't like feel resolved. He said it's hard to tell someone not to worry about a problem that's going to be a problem at some point. And that is so true. You cannot have someone say, I don't want kids and I don't want to live with you, and then just kind of like, okay, well, let me put that in the back of my mind and let's just go make drinks, or let's just go do this, let's just go do that. Like, how do you expect him to mentally get past that part? Like, you're not romantically involved, like, y'all don't seem like y'all really vibe like that. So I don't understand. I can understand why Brett was frustrated, even though he's way too sarcastic and he played too much. I can understand why he was frustrated when they were having that conversation at the table, talking about what Dr. Viviana said. And Olivia kept saying, Brett, stop looking at me like that. And he was like, looking at you like what? And he said sarcastically. And she said sarcastically. And he was like, well, what does sarcastic look like? And I wanted to know the same thing. What does it look like? But he is sarcastic all the time. And he said, she basically was like, well, you are one person on camera and another person off camera. You give these politically correct beauty pageant answers, which if you go back through the episodes, like even when they were rating their marriage and all this stuff, like he was giving all these answers that seemed like the right thing to say. Well, we're not going to discuss this, or I won't rate my marriage because that's degrading. And, he does give these answers, I guess, to make himself look good on camera. But in the end, it just kind of looks like he's being a jerk. So I don't think his idea of what's making him look good or bad is in line with what actually makes him look good or bad. She said, do you want to be married to me? He says, I've been very clear about that. She says again, do you want to be married to me? And he says, yes, I wouldn't go through any of this. And if I didn't, and you're really insecure. So I was like, wait, what? So I get both sides of the story. So it's hard for me to like pick and choose, because he says, do you want to be married? She says, do you want to be married? He's like, well, I wouldn't be here if I didn't. But the fact that if a man says he did, even though he didn't directly answer the question. So one, I hate when dudes who be liars do that. If I ask you a question, give me the answer. Just give me an answer. Yes, I want to be married to you. Don't say, well, if I, either you do or you don't. And so that's what she was getting at. But at the same time, I could see where he might be like, the fact that you can't just take my yay is my yay, my no is my no. That does make her look a little bit insecure. They also went to a little drinking event at the end of their little, their screen time, which I thought it didn't look fun. It didn't look fun. They were just trying to do something together, I guess, to get some B-roll or whatever to make them look like they're having a good time. But I just thought that was whack. Even though she did suggest at the end of that drinking event that they having a thing with Pastor Cal, like, let's meet with Pastor Cal. And she was like, do you want to? And he was like, okay, well, if you want to. And she was like, well, I don't want you to just go because I want to. I want you to want to. Okay, you can't make somebody want something. You can want them to want something, same way he want her to want sex. She wants him to want to meet with Pastor Cal. So I'm like, both of y'all got to come and meet in the middle. And I've been saying this from the beginning. They got to meet in the middle. I don't think they're going to make it. I've seen spoilers about them, and I won't say what it is, but my personal opinion, 2 cents, they are not going to make it. So last but not least, sorry I'm going so fast. I am late for an event. So Miles and Karen. Okay. It's just so much is going on with Miles and Karen. I've saved the best for last. Last week, she had finally said, I'm attracted to him and I do want physical intimacy with him. That was the same episode where she said she didn't feel safe and she left. And I was just like, okay, did somebody talk some sense into you before you came back? Something must have happened because she came back like a whole new person. I was like, okay. He asked the question if she trusts him, and she said she does, like in a general living with him way, and that he won't harm her. And he said he's not ready to give her whole heart of love yet. He asked her how she thinks they can build trust, and Miles is like, how can we build this trust? And she said she thinks you can just see it in someone over time, and that if he keeps continuing to show up in small moments and difficult moments, then she will see him and that'll be his best self, and that will prove and develop trust over time. Miles also said that he was a little unclear on what Karen's needs are with affection and intimacy. And whenever Dr. Viv came, she was like, so do you guys feel married? Karen was like, no. Miles said, in moments. And I just think that was honest. And she asked them what's missing. Karen says that they just need time to bond and to get to know each other and trust each other. And Miles said that he was kind of, surprised at how much he was into her. He didn't expect to be into her so soon, which I thought, like, is that really real? Because you're in all monogamous relationships and you seem like you was enamored with her the first day. I feel like if she would be giving him more, they would be even more together, but she's just still holding back. The next question was, how can they build a connection? Karen said that it's a lot to be in front of the cameras and get to know Miles at the same time. And Miles says it's a bigger deal for her than it is for him about the cameras. And the language for connection, because Dr. Viv was like, do you have the language to even express what you want? She said she's never actually talked about it. And that's actually not so uncommon. We don't usually, as women or people in general, talk about all the things we want. We just kind of hope somebody gets it. But to be honest, to get to a healthy, mature place in relationships, you have to learn to discuss and talk about you have to learn to discuss and talk about what you desire. You can't just hope and guess that someone is going to know what you want. Miles said that she wants connection, but she won't initiate it or won't say that she wants it. And that he didn't even know she was attracted to him until she actually said it. And so y'all was going at me in the comments talking about what Karen's attracted to him and all this and all that. But she never says it and never does anything to show it. And even Miles said it. So she finally said it at the end of the last episode. But for real, he didn't know, he couldn't tell. So whatever vibe she was giving off was not working. So even though we might see it, if he can't tell, then what she's doing wasn't effective. Dr. Viviana also said that men feel most secure in their marriage when they feel their partner wants them sexually. And of course, you can tell that Karen does not want him sexually yet. And so maybe that's why Dr. Viviana said, well, why don't you just take sex off the table? And Karen also was cringing when they were talking about that, because she said her family, I just know my mom and my dad are watching. And girl, I actually relate to that so much about, being conservative and being concerned of what people think when you talk about sexual things, or things you've done or things you want to experience. She's almost acting like a virgin, but I don't think she is at all. But I just do think that, like Dr. Viviana said, there's ladylike ways to discuss sexual things, and then maybe just take sex off the table so that she doesn't feel like, well, if I'm doing this, he thinks I want to go all the way. So if she doesn't want to go all the way, they take that off the table and then find intimate things they can do together that's not sex. And I thought that was just so good. Dr. Viviana, she was giving great advice this episode. And she was new to the show, I think 2 seasons ago. So I really like her as an addition, because she just really is giving practical advice. She also said that she doesn't think that Karen really has walls up. She just doesn't want to go all the way. And so because she doesn't really know exactly little things that she likes to do prior to sex, I guess, she couldn't really express that. And so Karen made the comment that, I said I move slow, but I didn't mean like I do nothing at all. I just didn't want him to expect so much from the beginning, like me giving all this affection, when that's not how I am at the beginning. So I guess maybe Miles and the rest of the world misconstrued what she said by that. I don't know. I just think that it's not a good idea to be someone that's hard to read. Be honest, be upfront. Like, you're in this experiment. You don't have you don't got time to be guessing. So Karen, like, I just hope that she just, in the future episodes becomes very clear. And I hope they do make those boundaries. I hope they do make the list of things that they can do together that's not sex, but still builds intimacy. So Karen and Miles, they went to the gym. Miles looked like he was struggling. Karen's like she's in shape. Okay, shout out to Karen for that, for being in shape. They were doing the trust exercises, and Miles was giving the pet names that he calls Karen, like Shorty, Love, Hey Ma, and Head. And she's like, I'm not a pet name person. Okay, girl, she's just so old and so harsh acting. Like, just like, if someone likes a pet name, of course you can't make anyone give you a pet name or make anyone call you a pet name for that matter. Like, she was just like, well, you can submit a list of the pet names that you would like to be called. I was like, she's acting like she's like his mama still. Like, you can submit a list. Like, this ain't a job interview, submitting lists of pet names. Like, I just think that's so weird. Like, I just wish she would just bring that wall down and just, the ice box around her heart, someone just heat it up and melt it so she could just be a real, authentic, open person. That would just make her so much better, in my opinion. So, one question was, what would the trigger or thing be that would make Miles feel most insecure? And I'm so happy he said this. He said that the big influence about age, and he said, and I quote, his pet peeve is that people dismiss him based on his age. And she said, well, do I make you feel that way? And he said he doesn't like when she makes little comments like, oh, you remind me of me 8 years ago. But she tried to defend herself and said, well, that wasn't about age. It was about an emotional place that I was, where I didn't tell people what I needed. But girl, come on. She makes so many little comments about his age that I do believe that he's offended by it, or he would not say it. And he's just trying not to be offended because she's already sensitive and acting all, so he want to make sure that she's not offended, that he's offended. But Miles, just say how you feel, dude. Like, say how you feel, mean what you say. The next thing was she said that she liked that he opened up because things can't be rainbows and butterflies all the time. Okay. I think Miles looks at life like the glass is half full, and Karen doesn't really see things that way. So, sorry y'all, I'm getting phone calls because I'm supposed to be somewhere. So it's interrupting. Did I freeze? Okay, no, there we go. Sorry. I am getting phone calls, so it is interrupting the feed. I just want to make sure. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. One of the questions was, what do you want to work hard to change? She said about taking things slow and how that didn't mean what everyone thinks it meant. Miles said that he's thinking beyond 8 weeks, so he doesn't know what areas to push her in and what areas to hold back. And that's real because you don't know if that other person is not thinking beyond the 8 weeks, then it's hard for you to know what areas to let go of or whatnot. So anywho, thank you guys who stayed in to watch live. Let me